All right, so good to have you all here tonight. Hearing some pitter patter of rain on the roof. Quite refreshing. So normally I just check in right away and see any questions about the practice. Last week we talked about these. Often it's the 7 limb prayer, as it's commonly called, but 7 meritorious, I think, actions is what His Holiness called it in this book. But I'm going to have us hold on that because we're going to come back to that. Kind of just bring up the text here. Actually, let me see if somebody had a message. Let me pull up the text. And here we're going to unpack, when we meditate, I often say for those, let's go ahead and take refuge and cultivate bodhicitta. And for those of you without such a practice, set a good motivation. Well, His Holiness is going to go right into that right now. So I think by now we'll be able to then have an opportunity to all be able to say a little refuge prayer, cultivate our bodhicitta aspiration. So let me pull it up here. Here we go. So yeah, he called, 7 meritorious practices. So the 7 limb prayer. And so once again, when we engage in any spiritual practice, we can really add some gusto to it. And it's really beneficial. It's creating the conditioning. It's like when we're cooking soup. We really want it to kind of soak in and simmer and let it be really delicious. And so our practice, instead of just being a dry thing that we do or something that we meditate or we're striving for something, that we're really conditioning ourselves, really bringing about these highest potentials that can ripen within us, and taking a little time to do all the prep work, the preparatory work, these practices that really condition us so that we can engage in this practice with a whole new mind, really. And so with all Tibetan practices, there's these sort of preparatory ones. His Holiness is just focusing on 2. But very rich practices. You'll see them prostrate. We have an altar over here that Aaron takes very good care of, and there's water bowl offerings, and then settling our mind, getting our mind into a very wonderful, sweet conditioned state, and then maximizing this time so that my motivation isn't merely, to eliminate some suffering in my life or to find a little peace and ease or relaxation. They've got resorts for that. It's to transform myself. It's to transform myself and eliminate all of this confusion that gives rise to the mental and emotional suffering of samsara. And then to add to that, that I'm here for everyone else. That I don't want anyone to suffer. I can't stand to see them suffer. I want all of us to be free of this suffering. And so I'm engaging in these practices, in this path of awakening, this path of freedom, path of no more suffering, of complete enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and to ripen those potentials in our minds. And then as we engage in the next part of our practice, whether it's meditation or something else, we've really conditioned ourselves, and this motivation, this spiritual energy is carried into our practice. And then at the end, we dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it really makes it rich. It amplifies its potential. It cultivates this reminder of why we're doing this. And so these practices are what that's about, really conditioning ourselves. And so the 7, which we've been working on this week, are said to accumulate spiritual merit and purify negativity. So it's beautiful, sweet practice. And His Holiness, which is a little different order than you would normally get in a prayer book, is going to cover taking refuge, cultivating our bodhicitta aspiration. So now he's by committing to help. Now you're ready for the actual ritual of aspiring to enlightenment for the care of others. It comes in two parts. The first of which is the recitation of a short statement of refuge. Until I reach enlightenment, I seek refuge in the Buddha, the doctrine, and the supreme spiritual community. In its most compassionate form, refuge is the union of three attitudes. Number one, concern for the state of suffering of all beings, not just yourself. Concern, too, that they not seek mere solitary relief from suffering, but aspire to the altruistic enlightenment of Buddhahood, complete enlightenment. Two, faith in the Buddha, the states of realization, and the spiritual community. And so, again, this is, you'll see this again and again, faith in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the states of realization, the Dharma, and the spiritual community, the Sangha. Maintaining the conviction that through them, all beings will find freedom from all suffering. So real conviction of that. That's why we have a refuge, something we can rely upon. And compassion, which means not being able to stand the enslavement of others to suffering without doing something about it, that we got to do something. And as we've been talking about, that something that we can help the most is to really achieve Buddhahood. That's going to be much more impactful than these momentary states that we get so engaged in, that on this path we'll be able to help with some of those momentary states, but we have a much bigger goal. So those are the three qualities within this refuge statement. And know that the Buddha is the teacher of refuge, that the true paths and true cessations are the actual refuge. Okay, and that the bodhisattvas who are directly realized, who have directly realized the true nature of phenomena, are the spiritual community leading all sentient beings to refuge. So he's really unpacking Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the actual refuge. So is the Dharma. Know that the Buddha is the teacher, right? The teacher of refuge. That the true paths and the true cessations are the actual refuge. So that's the Dharma. The true paths and the true cessations, okay? So Dharma is often just called truth. So true paths, true cessations. And so Dharma, a lot of people just think of, Dharma text or having a Dharma talk. But Dharma includes these cessations and our realizations, the understanding, grasping of truth in our journey here. And so it's something we can really rely upon. And that's our actual refuge, really, truth, the nature of things. And so these teachings point to that truth. These practices allow us access to those truths. The Buddha taught us those refuges, but the real refuge is the Dharma. So if anyone ever quizzes you on the 3 jewels of refuge and asks you which is most important, the answer would be the Dharma. They're all incredibly, immeasurably valuable, but sometimes they'll debate those points because the Buddha, the Bodhisattvas, our Sanghas, the fundamental liberation is the Dharma. And so then he uses again, and that the Bodhisattvas who have directly realized the true nature of phenomena are the spiritual community, the Sangha, leading all sentient beings to refuge. And so just a distinction point here is that, I'll stop sharing for a moment. we say we have a sangha, so like, we're a sangha, and but we don't take refuge in this sangha. A refuge that we can rely upon, that's dependable, that we really can lean into, is going to be beyond samsara. So enlightened beings, the Dharma, the Buddha is the teacher, the Buddhas that have taught. All of these are beyond samsara, and that's a refuge we can depend upon. Any entity within samsara, and there are sort of heaven realms and other aspects of samsara that are quite amazing and have incredible qualities, but they're not our refuge. Our refuge is always beyond that. So often, just to keep those clarities, certainly in my tradition, we won't really call this a sangha. I think it's 5 monks or more make a sangha, that can represent the Buddhist teaching. But they're typically monastic communities, a number of them, or the enlightened ones, and then this would just be our spiritual community, right? And so, but for ease, and it's very common language in the West to call it a sangha, and it's totally okay to call it that. It's just we need to know the difference. This is not the sangha I would take refuge in. I'm taking refuge in these enlightened ones. They I can rely upon. Let's just go through the next little piece here. With that knowledge, aspire to the highest enlightenment by reciting, through the collections of merit of my giving, morality, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all beings. As you do, think to yourself, through the force of these, may I achieve Buddhahood, not to help myself, but to be of service to all sentient beings in order to help them reach Buddhahood. This is called generation of compassion intention, to become enlightened in the form of a wish. Cultivate bodhicitta aspiration. And this brings us to the essential part of the ritual, with a strong wish to attain Buddhahood in order to serve all beings. Imagine before you a Buddha or your own spiritual teacher as a representation of him. Excuse me. And so those of you who do morning practice with us every day, we'll always invite that the Buddha in the space in front of you, and we recite this. And so first we'll go through it as is here in the text, and we'll just go over what we have in our regular daily practice and how it encompasses these things. So recite the following as if you're repeating it after the Buddhas, as though the Buddhas are giving you this transmission and you're reciting it. It's 3 times, and each time has a distinct quality. First one is I'm reciting it, and I'm taking these vows like, until I reach enlightenment, I seek refuge in the Buddha, the doctrine, and the supreme spiritual community. Through the collections of merit by my giving, morality, patience, effort, concentration, wisdom, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all beings. By saying this, you are directing your virtuous actions not to come to some small purpose in this life or the next, but to the greatest purpose of all, the attainment of total freedom for all beings. Generate this attitude with great determination. And then a second recitation, and the second repetition with even greater resolve. Now it's a resolve from your side to make this altruistic goal a constant in your day-to-day life. That first I'm taking it, now I'm really embracing this, and I'm dedicating to this. Until I reach enlightenment, I seek refuge in the Buddha, the doctrine, and the supreme spiritual community. Through the collections of merit by my giving, morality, patience, effort, concentration, wisdom, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help all beings. And then a third. Make the third repetition with even greater determination from the depths of your heart. Make a lasting, fully reasoned decision, unshakably circumstanced, that the welfare of so many others is far greater than your own. Think now, when I have such a great opportunity, what could be more important than striving for the benefit of others? From now on, to the full extent of my ability, I will stop concentrating on my own welfare and will commit myself deeply to the advancement of all beings. To accomplish this, I will achieve unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. It's a much greater oomph of aspiration here. Until I reach enlightenment, I seek refuge in the Buddha, the doctrine, and the supreme spiritual community. Through the collections of merit of my own giving, morality, patience, effort, concentration, wisdom, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to benefit all beings. So you can see how this is giving quite an oomph to us getting ready for our practice. It puts our mind in a very different space as we engage. This concludes the ritual. Through it, you plant and nurture the seeds of strong and unwavering compassion. And so here, I wanted to then show how we actually do this every day. And so I'll pull up, let's see, first I think I need to stop, and then I'll start again, my share. So in the daily practice that we offer every day, there's a downloadable little prayer book that we have. It's also available, I think, on this exact page on the webpage that you enter each week. And so we have a little booklet you can do, or just a plain handout. This plain handout. And in the longer practice, which by Tibetan standards, actually a very short practice, but by our Western one, it could be a longer one. You're going to see this preparation, this conditioning that gets us ready for practice, and so you'll see our Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer is going to have these same elements as Holiness just described. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, wisdom, may attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So now we're bringing in all these aspects, right? We have it says here, visualize a refuge tree or the Buddha seated in front of you. And now we're going to take refuge into the Buddhas, the true path, the true sensations, the Dharma, the supreme spiritual community of Bodhisattvas, the Sangha. And so we're going to establish that refuge. And then the Bodhicitta aspiration through the positive potential, the spiritual merit that I create by practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, wisdom, may attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. And let's see. Are you now seeing, hopefully, the other text? So you're going to see here, he's going to say the collections of merit. So we're talking about positive potential of my giving, right? Generosity, morality, ethics, patience. We put joyous effort, concentration, wisdom, may achieve Buddhahood to help all beings. And so in our little booklet, it's the positive potential created. And so these are the 6 perfections. This is the path of a bodhisattva. path of a bodhisattva is cultivating these 6 perfections: generosity, ethics, patience, choice, effort, concentration, wisdom, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So essentially at this stage, we're really cultivating and watering this bodhisattva path that we're committing to. So a very different mind by the time we've done that 3 times, especially if we've taken a few moments to increase that motivation with each recitation. And then in our booklet, we normally have the 4 immeasurables, again, watering these incredible aspirations and qualities of mind, attitudes. And then we get to the 7-limb prayer, which is the practice that we've been doing. And you'll see, sometimes the wording is a little bit different. That's always a result of how we translate Tibetan, what's the best way to communicate into an English language. But you're going to see the same 7, he calls it 7 meritorious practices. And here again, visualizing the merit field of the Buddha and the space in front of us. Reverently I prostrate with body, speech, and mind. Present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. The limb of confession. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since the beginning of this time. Good time to bring to mind our opponent powers here for purification. Rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. And then our requests. Please remain until cyclic existence ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. Dedication. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to great enlightenment for all sentient beings. And then that special offering, that mandala offering that we've been working with, is a little more elaborate in ours. This grant, and there's a little mudra that goes with it, which if we were here in person, I could teach you, but a little complicated to get your hands in there. But this ground, anointed with perfume, flower strewn, Mount Meru, 4 lands, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land, the objects of attachment, aversion, ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments. I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure. Inspire me and others to be free from the 3 poisonous attitudes. And so we make this offering, and as His Holiness put, this purified version of all the universe, the worlds, all this wonderful stuff that's offered. And so these are the same practices that His Holiness is teaching us. And they're right here in our regular daily practice book. So really nice to know that they're there for you. And so we generally go through, there's a formula within Tibetan Buddhist practice, pretty standard. So each teacher will put in a different little piece, but they're all leading towards bringing our mind into a conditioned, ripe state of mind so that I can engage in this practice, cultivating these highest potentials. And then for those of you who do the morning practice with me, we do the short practice. So we take refuge, cultivate bodhicitta, and then instead of the 7 limb, pick the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma. Again, another ability, time, opportunity, I think would be a better way of putting it, to reflect upon, why I'm doing this and how important it is to not waste this day and to engage in these practices in a day that will never come again. And then we meditate, and then we set an intention, and then dedicate. So very formula, like it's always motivation, increasing, watering, nurturing, practice, and then dedication at the end. Really beautiful formula. Little pieces get mixed up depending on the teacher and the time. And so if we do this every day, imagine that, we're just watering the seeds of this bodhicitta motivation. And then throughout the day, we can bring these to mind. As a matter of fact, in the next part of the text, he's going to encourage that. But I do want to just pause there for a moment and see if anyone had any questions, curiosities, how your practice went, or anything's come up so far. So I'll pause here and see if anyone, if you have a question, you can just raise your hand or type in a question. All right. Oops, I think we got one here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. First is small question. What does the mudra represent? Very good question. I was going to actually try to show you that. So the middle here, my two fingers right here wiggling up to the front. I don't know how much you can see these two. Mount Meru, and then the four lands. So four lands, Mount Meru. So it's all the lands, all four directions, four lands, and Mount Meru. So it's this universe that we're offering. And imagine it's a Buddha land offered to you. And often if I had a mala here, we'd wrap a mala around that as well. And then another question, what are true cessations? Cessations of the causes of suffering. So, when early on in the book, we talked about, the real cause of suffering. So in the Four Noble Truths, the third noble truth is the truth of cessation. And that is cutting through the causes of suffering. So we actually have opportunities and have done so. I mean, you've in your life have already developed very skillful methods and some wisdom and some understanding how to eliminate some suffering in your just day-to-day life. If I don't do that, this isn't going to happen. And stick a hand in a flame and kind of get a lesson. And so we in our daily life will have the opportunity to gain the wisdom to cut through. Like I would never stick my hand in a flame, on purpose, and because I know it hurts. So there's no cause for that anymore. It's not, there's no desire, there's no curiosity around that. Likewise, there's going to be these cessations of grasping to yourself and grasping to others. And as we become more aware of how things actually are and how interdependent we are and how things arise dependently, and understand this dynamic, we'll have more clarity and we'll stop doing certain things that, actually create suffering, but, used to bring us some pleasure, some comfort. We just see that's it doesn't even make sense after a while. So we get these cessations. So initially there's some very mundane cessations, mundane world, stop doing that. I'm not creating a cause to suffer. Karmically, we're going to stop creating, causes. But the cessation is really true cessations around the wisdom of that. We're seeing it clearly, understanding it, like a hand in a flame. So at some point, the idea that someone else is causing you mental, emotional suffering just won't make sense, does not compute. It does not compute that they are making me angry. That it just, doesn't compute, doesn't make sense. Anger is here, not there. They are not the cause of my anger. They're a condition that triggers, an anger that I'm experiencing. And that's based on me wanting things to be different. They are a lot of things, but it's not them. And so we can talk about it quite a bit, and we can understand it, we can intellectualize it. But at some point, if we start paying attention to that, we're going to realize that we're going to, it just doesn't compute that they're the cause of your suffering, mental, emotional suffering. They could be the cause of your pain if they hit you with a bat. That's different. They're not going to be the cause of your anger. Anger is a mental state. So as we start to understand these causes are seeds in my consciousness, and we start to recognize that, we're going to gain some wisdom, some understanding. Those seeds, those causes, There'd be no reason that, you know, they don't exist in that way anymore. So the Dharma is, you know, so the truth of cessation, third noble truth, the Noble Eightfold Path is how we achieve that through these practices. So as we engage in Dharma and have more understanding of dependent arising and our interdependent nature, then we're going to remove a lot of grasping and attachment, because, you know, that's really not how things are. At some point we'll know that, as opposed to just understand it. Okay, anyone else have a curiosity or question there? Okay, so far so good. We got about 10 minutes, and the next part of the book we need to unpack a little bit. So, but let's just tap in here and maintain this. Yeah, so we'll go through this, and we'll put it out there for you. You may have noticed that you could start your day off with the best of intentions, and by 10 o'clock be angry and frustrated, and, you know, forget all about the Dharma, the path of awakening, enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and just be pissed off at somebody, or scared of something, or whatever's going on in my day, and being stressed and anxious. You may have experienced such things. I know I have. So the idea isn't that I do my practice, I ripen my mind, I do a nice practice, I do a dedication, then I rush off into the busyness of the world and forget all about my commitment to be a bodhisattva and to help all sentient beings. And so there's, you know, how do we maintain that? And so that takes an effort. And the thing to understand here as a human being, that what I water grows. What I think about a lot become my thoughts. What I water my mind with, the thoughts. You know, we've talked about that before. We are often very picky about the food we eat. We're not very picky at all about the thoughts that we that we allow in our mind, and we're often not very picky about what we're feeding our mind, you know, through TV and music and other things, and not very thoughtful at all. And if we can, you know, recognize we have an opportunity to give our mind and our attitudes and our consciousness some real nourishment, you know, some real superfoods. And these superfoods are incredible thoughts, like the four immeasurable attitudes. The superfoods are, you know, bringing to mind this refuge and these bodhisattva aspirations. What we water grows. So taking some time frequently throughout the day to remind ourselves about these commitments, these practices, these thoughts. Well, that's giving our mind consciousness our superfood, and then that can grow. That become quite natural. So at first it's effortful because we have an inertia of self-centeredness and just wanting some more ice cream, watch some TV instead of, you know, reflecting on how I can be a benefit to others. And there's this heaviness, you know, as we do practice sometimes. It takes a while to get to kind of break through that. And you get this, wow, this lightness, this clarity of mind, this nimbleness of mind, this is so much better. You know, it's kind of like people become runners or, you know, work out in the gym. There's all this initial pain. And after a while, it's like, whoa, you know, got stamina. I'm clear, I'm crisp. And our mind can be like that. Our mind can be crisp and clear. Not affected, by things that used to destroy us. And so this happens not on its own. There's no pill for that. There's no little, they're inventing these little caps to help you meditate. They'll stimulate different brain cells and get you all great meditator, You don't need any technology. You just need to actually engage in the practice. And but if I only spend a little time cultivating this and a lot of time feeding my mind a lot of junk food, well, it makes it a lot harder. So His Holiness is going to encourage us to engage in some of these practices throughout the day. There's 4 practices aimed at keeping this altruism from deteriorating in this lifetime. It gets a little hardcore here, but we can, really work with this. We'll read them. We may need a little more time to unpack them, but you'll get the gist here. First, increase your enthusiasm for becoming enlightened for the sake of others by recalling again and again the benefits of doing so. And so, we're going to have to do this next week because I can bring up these benefits. It's good to know what all these benefits are. Bodhicitta is the fuel. It's the fuel for enlightenment. It is the fuel that eliminates all obscurations. So incredible benefits. So we'll unpack that a little more. So we'll come back to this. And anyway, then he'll give some practices to divide your day up into these 3 periods. And during those periods, going to encourage you to engage in that practice that we've already done earlier. It's on page 84. Where we bring to mind, others and people who are suffering and needy, and then my own self-centeredness, my little self-centered ego, afflicted, self, and that practice where we start naturally want to help them instead of my self-centered, greedy ego, and so this practice of doing this frequently is one that we can just start watering and growing. And by the way, whenever we get into teachings like this, I realize you can't see what I just clicked on, but I only see that now. When we think about selflessness and helping others, it does not mean that we starve and that we suffer in any way. As a matter of fact, we don't suffer at all. We suffer less. And it doesn't mean we don't take care of ourselves and have, good healthy food and good shelter and our needs are met and we have good health care. We need all those things in order to engage in this path to help others. So there's a big difference between making sure that our needs are met, we're healthy and well, and feeding my ego, greed and, grasping. I mean, that's really a source of my suffering, not any liberation. So in that visualization, we're really talking about those afflictive mental states that I identify with as John. And not really the essence of who John is, this person that wants to help others and live a meaningful life, but rather all those afflictive mental states that are very self-centered and actually get in the way of that opportunity. So often people get confused around the idea of helping others, like then we're without, but we're not without at all. We make sure our needs are met, and then we always have so much more to offer, and that can be as simple as time or energy or a smile, but most importantly, to engage in a path of transforming our minds, to wake up, to become Buddhas. And that requires some health. It requires a healthy environment. And so very critical. We don't want to ever miss that. People miss that a lot and actually feel guilty about doing good things for themselves. And love it. Alton's Priyadarshi always says, the Dharma is supposed to make you suffer less, not more. If my practices cause me anxiety or guilt or shame, well, that's really not the Dharma. So, feel good when we do good things, and know that sometimes we need a break or a little vacation. I do want to give a shout out because tonight is the anniversary of Dusty and Jessica, and I think they're online here. And two of our incredible spiritual community members who host the teachings at the Here Now Center in Gunnison. And tonight's their anniversary, and they're here on a Dharma teaching. So happy anniversary. Thanks for all the good that you bring the world, all the kindness that you both share with everybody, and all your efforts to bring the Dharma. Happy anniversary. May there be many more to come. I mean, that's an interesting priority. Be with the Dharma. So, but we enjoy it. Rumor has it somebody who just is having an anniversary went and had a little night out in hot springs and a little vacation. Enjoy that. That's totally good Dharma practice. It's about our motivation and that we need to have good balance in our lives. So I want to underscore that. As all this talk about being a benefit to others, we're not going to benefit them very well if we are not healthy or well, if we don't have healthy food, if we don't have our needs met. The key is not to confuse our needs with our greeds, because that is the source of a lot of suffering. So make sure our needs are met, and then see how we can be beneficial to others. Okay. Well, we're at the hour, so I did want to just any last minute questions or thoughts before we dedicate. Looks like I may have a little typed in message. Oh, people are typing happy anniversary. All right. Yeah. Wonderful, dear people. Let's dedicate this incredible amount of merit that we've already accumulated. And I think in the future, beginning next week, we'll start with a Refuge Prayer. So we'll unpack it Sunday, and then every Dharma teacher from now on, we'll start with taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. And through the positive potential we create, practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joy, effort, concentration, wisdom, we attain Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. And so we'll do 3 recitations each Dharma teaching. Condition ourselves to receive these precious teachings by His Holiness. Feels good. All right. Let us dedicate the merit and wisdom that we've accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes. Let us dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and find complete liberation. May we be able to use the merit and wisdom accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes to purify our minds, to help us fully engage in our bodhisattva path to achieve enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. May we also dedicate this merit and wisdom for the long life of all spiritual teachers of all spiritual traditions who are authentically teaching a path of no more suffering. And may we also have a special dedication for the long life of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, our precious teacher. May he live long, may his teachings flourish within all our mind streams for many eons to come.